What are you doing? Open the goddamn door. Hey.
When people talk about Marvel's most gritty and grounded characters, the Punisher is always right there at the top of the list. Jon Bernthal already made his mark as Frank Castle back in Netflix's Daredevil and his own 2-season series, and fans have been waiting for years to see him back in proper MCU form. Now that Marvel has fully folded him into the main universe with Daredevil Born Again, it feels like things are just getting started. And because Marvel is leaning so much into special presentations, spin-offs, and character-focused projects, it makes sense that Bernthal himself pitched a solo Punisher story to the studio. Not only is he starring in it, but he's also co-writing alongside director Ronaldo Marcus Green, which shows how much he cares about keeping Frank Castle's world authentic. Filming kicked off at the start of July, and even though it's only been a few weeks, fans are already buzzing because of a leaked set photo. Photographer Steve Sands grabbed the clearest look yet at Bernthal in full Punisher mode, and it immediately sparked conversations. The shot revealed a bunch of upgrades to his suit. He's rocking a newly trimmed flat top, a full beard that wasn't there in Born Again, a freshly painted skull logo across his vest, and loads of tactical padding and weapons. It's cleaner, tougher, and it just screams that this Punisher has been through more battles and learned a few lessons along the way. And that's actually important, because where we last saw Frank Castle in Daredevil Born Again left the door wide open for him to evolve. At the end of Season 1, the post-credit scene showed him breaking out of Kingpin's Red Hook prison, and at that point he was still clean-shaven. The fact that he's now rocking a full beard in the set photos suggests some time has passed. So the special presentation probably picks up months after his escape, giving us a version of Frank who's been on the run, reflecting, and getting his hands even dirtier in the fight against crime. Another little clue comes from a video filmed on set that showed Bernthal in a broad daylight fight scene, still sporting the beard and flat top. When you pair that with the timeline details from Spider-Man Brand New Day, which is set in the latter half of 2027, it all lines up. Born Again mostly played out in early 2027, which means the special presentation is filling in that gap in between. The MCU has already been playing with time jumps ever since Avengers Endgame pushed its setting into the future, so it feels consistent that Punisher's solo project would stretch out the timeline a little more. Now let's talk about what that suit really means. In Born Again, Punisher was still operating in a relatively stripped-down style: bulletproof vest, ammo belt, basic holsters. It got the job done, but he also got taken down by the anti-vigilante task force, who were twisting his ideology for their own agenda. Clearly, Frank learned from that defeat, because his new suit looks like the culmination of all those experiences. It's bulkier, smarter, and more protective, but still practical enough to fit his down-and-dirty approach. This isn't a flashy Iron Man suit or some high-tech Black Panther armor. It's functional gear put together by someone who knows the streets are unforgiving. And it needs to be, because the threats coming his way are escalating. The special presentation is expected to pit him against Ma Ganucci, one of the most iconic villains from the comics. She's brutal, calculating, and exactly the kind of opponent who forces Frank to stay one step ahead. On top of that, his ideology being warped by groups like the AVTF means he's fighting not just enemies with guns, but enemies who claim to be carrying his torch. That adds layers to his battles. And then, looking further ahead, Spider-Man Brand New Day is rumored to put him against none other than the Hulk. So, Frank's going to need every ounce of preparation he can get. What makes all of this even more exciting is how Bernthal and the designers are handling his evolution. His new suit still has that grounded, tactical feel that matches the tone fans loved from Netflix, but it's edging closer to the more iconic Punisher look from the comics. The skull symbol is more prominent, the armor more deliberate, and the overall image more intimidating. But the best part is that it doesn't lose sight of practicality. Punisher has always stood apart in the MCU because he doesn't rely on advanced Stark tech or Wakandan science. He survives through grit, skill, and careful preparation. Even though Spider-Man and Hulk are stepping into his orbit, the hope is that Marvel keeps Frank grounded instead of decking him out in over-the-top tech. That's where his character thrives. And speaking of Spider-Man, Brand New Day is shaping up to be a huge pivot point for Tom Holland's Peter Parker. At the end of No Way Home, Peter made the heartbreaking choice to let Doctor Strange's spell erase his identity from everyone's memory, including MJ and Ned. That moment reset his life completely. The script for No Way Home even spelled it out clearly. Peter Parker is no more, but Spider-Man lives on. So when we see him next, he's living in a modest apartment, sewing his own suit, and focusing entirely on being Spider-Man. That sets the stage for a much more personal story. Instead of getting pulled into another big multiversal mess, Brand New Day brings Peter back down to the streets of New York, fighting smaller-scale crime and rebuilding his sense of self. And this is where the crossover characters make sense. Every Spider-Man film in the MCU so far has included a major hero alongside him. Iron Man in Homecoming, Nick Fury in Far From Home, well, sort of, and Doctor Strange in No Way Home. So it was pretty much a given that the tradition would continue. This time, though, we're not getting one, but two big characters, Punisher and Hulk. On the surface, that pairing feels strange because Punisher and Hulk are polar opposites. Frank Castle is all about brutal street justice, while Hulk is pure gamma-powered chaos. But when you look at Peter's situation, it actually makes sense. Punisher mirrors one path Peter could take, shutting out his personal life completely, letting grief consume him, and turning into a darker, more violent figure. Frank did that after his family's death, and it destroyed him emotionally even as it made him more ruthless. On the flip side, Hulk represents the healthier path. Bruce Banner struggled for years with his identity, constantly at war with the Hulk inside him. But eventually, he found peace by merging the two sides into Smart Hulk. That balance is exactly what Peter needs right now. So, Brand New Day isn't just about Peter taking on bad guys, it's about him choosing who he's going to be. If he follows Frank's example, he could spiral into a darker version of himself, even crossing the line into killing. That would make him the perfect candidate for the symbiote suit down the line, especially since the comics had Peter first wear it during Secret Wars. But if he leans into Hulk's example, he can come out of this stronger, more centered, and fully ready to rejoin the Avengers when Doomsday arrives. Either way, this movie is clearly a turning point for Spider-Man. And let's not ignore how big this is for Punisher too. His inclusion in Brand New Day finally puts him on the big screen as part of the MCU's central story. After years of being a Netflix-only character, he's now playing alongside marquee heroes like Spider-Man and Hulk. That legitimizes him as a major player moving forward. It also puts him in a unique mentor-anti-mentor position, because even though Frank Castle is a cautionary tale, his presence will force Peter to wrestle with his own pain in ways no other hero could. At the same time, Hulk being there keeps the movie from going too dark. Frank's influence is heavy, but Banner's perspective balances it. And because Mark Ruffalo wasn't announced as part of Avengers Doomsday, his role here in Brand New Day feels extra important. It could be the last big chance for audiences to see him play mentor before the Avengers films roll in. So when you connect all these threads together, the new Punisher suit, his standalone special presentation, his big screen crossover with Spider-Man and Hulk, and Peter Parker's new arc, you can see Marvel building something layered. It's not just random cameos, it's a bunch of character journeys colliding at just the right time. Frank Castle's darkness, Peter's struggle for identity, and Hulk's example of balance all feed into a story about choice, resilience, and legacy. And that's that for today's video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.